This is a direct quote. Someone posted this. I thought it was a good question to post here. What motivation would a home buyer have to sign a buyer's agent commission representation/representation agreement? I cannot think of one. What am I missing?
Oh my.
So even like, what's your reaction to that?
Well,
it's the first time.
And so we want to take some time to address some of these questions,
yes.
Some of these assertions that we're hearing online, yes. And you have a handful of posts here, and so
I'm just going to dive into it.
What have you got for us?
Let me start with the beginning here. All right, so to be clear, a buyer is supposed to sign a buyer's agency agreement to see a house. That's a new thing that everybody has to do.
Like we talked about in our previous
video. So that's a new thing, new requirement across the country for every realtor, right? So as a result, though, there's some information that seems to be missing for people. And I'm going to read these questions. We'll talk about why these are misguided. Mm-hmm. I'll say misguided to be nice, right?
Yeah.
All right. So open house, this is a direct quote. I'm going to read it from the screen.
Okay.
Open houses aren't an option for me anymore. I'm hearing you have to turn people away from your open houses if they don't sign a buyer's rep agreement. That will make it impossible to find clients. Besides open houses, how can I get leads? So do you know what's wrong with that one?
Wow. Well, let me just rephrase and make sure I understand it.
Yes.
So they're saying that if I'm at an open house, someone wants to walk into the door, I have to stop them and have them sign something.
Or turn them away.
Or turn them away.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what this person is asserting.
Wow. Well, that sounds absurd to me. Surely that can't be.
It is absurd.
Okay. Break it down.
It's incorrect.
Break it down.
If you're hosting an open house, there's either your own listing, you don't have to get anyone to sign it, or for someone else's listing, you don't have to get anyone to sign a buyer's rep agreement.
Yeah.
For that. They can sign something else if you want them to register or
yeah.
whatever. But you're not required to get a buyer's rep agreement. And there's a presumed, if it's not your own listing, it's presumed sub-agency.
Okay.
Okay, because you're kind of working on behalf of the seller to market the property. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right.
And sub-agency is not something that we talk about a lot because in practice it doesn't happen that often. But that would be a case where, at least temporarily, it's your sub-agent.
Yeah.
Now, if you start working with those buyers and you take them to see something else, then you have to get them to sign something. But for that day, for that house, nothing is required.
Right.
So this person's saying that it's not an option anymore for them. I feel bad for. Of course, there's hundreds of comments explaining this to this person, but the bottom line is there are a lot of brokers that aren't training on this.
Yeah.
There are a lot of agents that have. Well, there are agents I know right now that they've never met their broker. That's a true statement. They've never met their broker because they have a broker out of Dallas or something like that, and they're handling thousands of agents. That happens. But they're not getting training from whatever source they're supposed to get training from.
Yeah.
They're putting this out there, whether it's broker or some other agent. They're not getting trained. Anyway, that's the first one.
And sorry, just real quick.
Go ahead.
What is it that made this person arrive at that conclusion or that assumption?
Well, because they heard that every buyer that looks at a house with you has to sign a buyer's rep agreement. But the exceptions are if you're showing your own listing or you're an open house.
Okay.
It's clearly not the case. You have to turn people away.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you won't sign a buyer's rep agreement. You need to leave. I've asked you nicely. No one's going to get into that. That's not a thing. Here's another one. This is related. It's very similar. I might miss the information about the open houses and the settlement changes with NAR. How does it work with open houses now? Are people allowed to the open houses? Do they need to bring a copy of their buyer's rep agreement? Also, does anyone have any templates with NAR settlement changes used in open houses for potential clients? There's no separate agreement for that, but the main thing is no, you don't have to show up with a copy of a buyer's rep agreement. You just look at the house.
Yeah.
It's no different.
This seems pretty obvious to me, actually.
It should. It's common sense. And they didn't change that. So there's nothing weird related to open houses.
Right. At what point were you ever being there may be a point where the relationship would evolve to where you are now representing them, but when they walk into an open house, that is not the assumed nature of the relationship.
Correct. Yeah, no, there's no right. Yeah, there's no assumption that you're representing them just because you show up at an open house. So there's a third one about open houses I'll read quickly. This was funny to me. I ventured out this weekend to visit open houses to see how agents are embracing change. It was horrifying. Out of 3 open houses, only 1 was compliant. My favorite excuse was, I forgot the paper. And besides, I'm not the listing agent, so I'm not required to do it. Come on, we're better than this. Brokers, let's commit to training our agents. That is just stupid. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. And if that person sees it, I'm sorry. I'm not going to put this name on the video. But there may be states where that is required.
Sure.
I don't think this person was in a state where it's required. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But there may be some special requirements of other paperwork, but it's not a buyer's rep agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the implication that was posited later in the comments. But so that is not the case. And there was I'll go into a different topic.
Yeah.
This is one I saw. And I'm going to talk about how I would handle this. When a seller says, and this is a quote, "I will absolutely under no circumstances pay a buyer's agent." All they're really saying is, "I have a bottom line I won't go below. Make me an acceptable offer." Well, first of all, are they really saying that? Stop calling around to ask if they're paying you. Be creative. Be a problem solver. You're causing your buyers a huge, it's all caps, huge disservice by telling them I called them. They aren't offering any loot. So this house is off the table for you. Agents, stop acting like you're the reason a buyer can't buy a house. The real reason is the seller's bottom line, not your fee. Now, a lot of things wrong with this one.
Yeah.
And the first thing is, if a seller says that, they probably mean it. I don't think you just need to assume that a seller is going to say something they don't believe.
Yeah.
Or they're not going to back up. Like, I won't pay a buyer's agent under any circumstances.
Yeah.
As a listing agent, how would you respond to that?
Well,
what would your thoughts be about that?
Well, first of all, I want to honor my client's request.
Right.
First and foremost,
Exactly.
there's a demand from the client, and
That's
it's our
correct.
job to service them.
That is correct.
In
And
the way
that's
they want to be serviced.
That's actually in the code of ethics for realtors, taking the direction from your clients. So you're on the right track. Because if a client says, "I won't do that,"
Yeah.
you're not going to force them to do that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that someone couldn't bring an offer and they decide to do it later, but chances are, if they said it, they meant it.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
Right.
This person's saying that you're doing a huge disservice by even calling, if you're representing a buyer, to ask what they're paying.
Yeah.
How is that a disservice if they've agreed to pay you 3%?
Right.
Is the seller covering this, or part of it, or all of, or most of it, whatever?
Right.
To me, it's doing the correct service.
Right.
If they've instructed you to do this.
Right.
And the same thing there, you're taking the direction from the client.
Right.
Both sides, right? And so it's almost like talking out both sides of your mouth, like, hey, he didn't mean that, but these buyers, they would mean that, right? Like if they're saying, don't show me that house if they're not paying, it's the same thing. Anyway, I don't understand the take.
Yeah.
It's a weird take to me.
Yeah. And
How is it a disservice?
No, keep going. Sorry.
It says, stop calling around to ask if they're paying you. Be creative. Be a problem solver. He's basically saying, make an offer.
Yeah.
Stop acting like you're the reason the buyer can't buy a house. And the real reason is related to the fee. He's saying it's the seller's bottom line, which is always the case.
Right.
So I guess you could theoretically say, well, we'll pay more, but is that helping your buyer? Mm-hmm. Like more than it's worth?
Right.
I don't know if that works either.
Yeah.
To me, a seller means what they say. If they say they're not going to pay, they're not going to pay.
Yeah.
And so, like, I would honor that and say, well, that's how you feel. Now, for me as a listing agent,
Yeah.
I wouldn't take the listing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't want the listing if someone is that adamant about not paying
Yeah.
any commission.
Yeah.
to the
Well,
other
it seems
side.
like a very myopic perspective from the seller themselves. Again, it really is the bottom line. Whatever has to happen in order to sell my home, as long as I achieve my bottom line, that's really what I should care about. Whether I'm paying for pigeons at the closing or,
I agree.
whatever. All of that's not net
It either
relevant.
works out or it doesn't. I mean,
Right.
the net number to you is going to work out or isn't.
Yeah.
And so if you're in a situation where you bought a house 2-3 years ago, you may not be able to pay much or any commission to
Yeah.
it. You may
Yeah,
be
sure.
saying,
Right.
I mean, without losing.
Yeah.
It's a dollar for dollar loss in that case, right? Like if I have a client right now that's listed substantially below what they paid for a house a couple of years ago. That's just the market. We're $50,000 below what they paid for it.
Yeah. Ouch.
And but they want to sell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and they know, and so we work something out. But we're paying a buyer's agent commission on it.
Yeah.
I'm actually taking less on that one to help them out because I sold the house.
Well, and so curious. So, how would you handle this, both from a listing perspective? I think I've heard, but how would you handle this, right, from a buyer's agent perspective?
If I called?
Encountering this. Yeah.
Well, like apparently this guy would be sort of irate that I'm calling. Right? Why
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
calling
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah. Be
Then-
smart.
Well, let's role play for a second.
Yeah.
Like I'm calling you or I'm texting you and I'm saying, hey, could you let me know what the seller is paying for buyer's agent commission?
Yeah, and trying to put my this guy's hat on.
Yep.
Well, we're not. My seller is not paying buyer's agent commission, and I really think you're doing a client a disservice by even calling me.
Right. Okay, well, duly noted. And I'll go back to my client, and they're probably going to say, let's just skip it. Unless it's the only house.
Yeah.
Right? Then maybe we'll work on it.
Yeah.
Right now, inventory is at an not all-time high, 13-year high.
Yeah.
In Austin.
Yeah.
Austin.
Yeah.
I want to talk about our market. So there are other options. And
Right.
Unless it's a super unique property, we're probably going to skip it. Right. If it's not run-of-the-mill, but if it's a house that you can find 3 or 4 homes like that, why would you bother with someone this adversarial?
Well, and I'm thinking as well, even as a buyer, if I put myself in buyer's shoes, I'm your client, and I hear that this is the perfect house and the seller is not paying buyer's agent commission, I already want to push back a little bit and not say, hey, I don't want buyer's agent commission. I just want 20 grand in seller credit, you know, and if you're not willing to pay that, then okay, but I'm just also sensing that there's you don't want to, we're doing a transaction together and I have a super adversarial seller. That is a horrible situation for me to be in.
That's why the listing, for me, I wouldn't want to be that listing agent for that particular person. To me, it just feels like a wasted time and effort on that. Like, you're putting yourself at an immediate disadvantage by taking that listing with someone who has that emotion tied up in it already. And so for me, I would just run away. I was like, well, you know, I don't need the listing that badly, and you don't really want to sell that badly if that's your attitude. I mean, because as I've said before, I think my job, part of my responsibility to a seller, is to help them market the property to the maximum number of buyers. And with that would be paying commission. And so for me, I want to pay that. I mean, I want that to be part of it.
Well, and it
part
would
of the marketing.
And it would apply to any other aspect of marketing. You know, James, you have too much crap in your house. We need to get some of this stuff out. No, I'm not taking any furniture out of my home.
Right.
You know,
you're right though. I mean, it would apply to anything. Anything where they're not going to take direction from you, would be a red flag. So, it doesn't have to be every single thing. But within reason, like you said, like, oh, you got a lot of stuff, and like this is cluttered in here, and we need to clean this out, or whatever. Not the garage, but like the living room. So the kitchen, the kitchen has dirty dishes all the time, and like all over the place and stuff, which is how people live most of the time, right? They have stuff, they have kids, but when you're showing the house, you want it to look different,
right? And
so we've had people in the past that don't take direction like that, and like I don't want to mess with it. I mean, truthfully, if they don't want to do anything, it's rare. It's really, really rare. But happens occasionally. So that would be a red flag, though. So let's move on.
Yeah, good. Sorry, it's been
it's probably a little long-winded on that. This is a direct quote. Someone posted this. I thought it was a good question to post here. What motivation would a home buyer have to sign a buyer's agent commission representation agreement? I cannot think of one. What am I missing?
Oh my.
So even like what's your reaction to that?
Well,
it's the first time you've heard this.
So unfortunately I kind of know a little bit more than probably your average consumer at this point, just because we've been doing these videos. But what they're essentially saying right there is that I'm going to self-represent. I'm not going to work with a buyer's agent. Is kind of what this realtor is assuming, that there will be no more buyer's agents.
Right, or like they don't want to tie themselves to one, or like they don't want to sign an agreement where they have to pay something. But then you're not going to be working with an agent as long as that agent is adhering to the new rules. That's right. You wouldn't have an agent. And I tell people, I've said this in another video too, but I tell people all the time, even if you don't like me, get an agent. Even if you don't like working with me or my business partner or whatever, you don't like us, get an agent. It will help you. And I've said this before too. Even a mediocre agent is better than no agent sometimes. I mean, someone who's actively bad, don't get me wrong, they can screw something up. But someone who's kind of doing a good job is better than nothing. Generally. Even if it's just the appearance of having someone behind you helping, right? Like with a builder, we talked about that. So it's better than nothing. So that by itself is one reason. And the other thing is, if someone's explaining this properly, well, this person doesn't understand it, first of all.
And what makes you say that? Dig into that real quick.
Well, like they're saying they cannot think of a reason. This is an agent saying this. That they can't think of a reason for someone to sign a representation agreement. Maybe this isn't the business for you.
I know.
Maybe you need to do something else. If you are bringing value to the process, there is a reason for them to sign it. Also, if you're explaining it properly, they should sign it. Also, if you're adhering to the rules, they should sign it. So there are a lot of reasons. But by and large, the main reason is you want someone helping you. And more than likely, you're not going to end up paying whatever that number is that's on there. You're going to pay either a sliver of that or none of it, probably. I mean, in most cases, none of it, honestly. Even though agents say, oh, they pay the difference or whatever, we know the reality. If we're going to take, I mean, they might pay 1% or something like that out of 3, or they might pay 0.5%, or if the seller's really that difficult to work with, that's possible. But we're not going to be grilling buyers and like holding their feet. We need this extra money. I want them to get the house they want. And good realtors are going to say that. I'm not going to stand in the way of a buyer getting the right house. So you understand the situation. That's a rough one.
This is laughable.
It is. So there's more. This one got me, and I'm just going to say this is not a very smart question, but it's here.
Are you contributing to the laughing emoji? The laugh.
I didn't even respond to this one. I don't think. this is a direct quote, had an agent say to one of our agents that they can't share what the seller is willing to pay in buyer's agent commission because that's antitrust. Do you think that's antitrust? If a seller, so first of all, if I'm in a position to share what the seller is willing to do, they've already signed a listing agreement. We already have an agreement.
Yeah.
And there's a box that you check in
Yes.
that you say, I'm authorized to say this.
Right.
Or not.
Yeah.
They can say no.
Right.
But I don't know why you would put a number in there and then say no.
Right.
That makes no sense to me.
That's one thing that's so, I feel like that's so obscure to me already, or it's hard for me to see. When are you allowed then to share it? On the HUD, you see it?
You know it when you're going to contract. At some point, there would be an addendum.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, there would be an addendum, and it would spell it out somewhere.
Right.
It's going to be tied to the contract.
Yeah.
So at the time of a real contract, you're going to know.
Okay, yeah. So, but not until then. So you're like,
you would, well, you know, like based on the response, because you're going to make an offer, and it'll be part of it.
Yeah.
And it'll have your percentage in there, whatever, and it's going to be whatever the buyer's rep agreement says, probably, right? So if it says 3%, you're going to ask for 3, and you're going to put an addendum. So for them to say that they're not allowed to disclose that, the only time that would come up is if the seller specifically says don't. But why would a seller say that?
Yeah.
Why would you agree to 3% or whatever number, and then tell your agent, oh, by the way, don't tell anyone?
Yeah. And how
that's counterintuitive.
So, and how could this even?
It's not antitrust.
Yeah, I was going to say, how does that even associated with antitrust at all?
Do you understand do you know what the Sherman Antitrust Act is?
No.
The Sherman Antitrust Act is supposed to prevent collusion, and that was part of the basis of the lawsuit. I think that realtors were colluding to fix their commission, stuff like that, or it's customary, something like that. And so, but it's always been negotiable.
Yeah.
So, but a true Sherman antitrust violation would be the type of thing where a group of brokers gets together and they say, we're not going to charge less than X number of dollars.
I see.
X percentage.
Sure.
And everyone just charges that, across the board. Like it's a straight 7% or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing now, and we're going to leave it at that. And if you vary from that, you're out of the club. I don't know. But that's what the Sherman Antitrust violation or Antitrust Act is supposed to prevent.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with antitrust.
Yeah. Wow. Read it to me one more time. Sorry.
Absolutely. Sure. Had an agent say to one of our agents that they can't share what the seller is willing to pay in buyer's agent commission because that's antitrust.
So first of all, you just haven't read the form, obviously, because
you never listed a house.
Yeah.
I would think. I mean, like, how would you? If you're familiar with listing paperwork, you wouldn't even ask this question.
Yeah.
And posting it, I mean, like this person is laughing about it. I mean,
sure.
They're kind of pointing, but it's a real question someone had, or a comment, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
For a realtor in this, anyway.
Wow.
Here's one. My broker is forcing us to charge 3% to all buyers, which that by itself, that's really all I really need to say. But he says if they can't pay, they just won't get the house. I understand some listing agents still offer commission, but the difference has to be paid by the buyer. And it goes on from there about being worried about that and how to overcome this and just be confident. But I don't think as a broker I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah.
That gets more into that territory we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Antitrust. I don't know if it's really antitrust, but it's kind of just inadvisable.
Yeah.
Let the person work. They're self-employed.
Right.
Everybody that works for us at this company, they're independent contractors. We don't have employees. We don't have receptionists. So that'd be maybe the person we have. So all the realtors that are here are self-employed and they're 1099. They're not. We can't set their hours, and I really can't tell them. I can advise. I can tell them what I charge, but I can't tell them you have to put. I guess I could try, but I think it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's illegal to do that. I think it's just inadvisable.
Yeah. Okay.
To tell someone. I guess I theoretically can do that, but it's a strange hill to die on for someone else's time. Although that would mean the broker is concerned about getting a certain amount of money out of the deal.
That's
out of every transaction.
Yeah.
Which I don't look at things like. We're more of a holistic, big picture kind of company where we're getting money as it comes, but we're not worried about squeezing every dime out of every deal, which is what that comes across as.
Yeah.
And so he's saying, well, if they don't, the other thing is that, like, if they can't pay, they just don't get the house. Like, that's the wrong attitude, completely wrong attitude. I think. If we're a broker, especially, to say that, like,
that feels like other side of the spectrum. I feel like a lot of people are erring on the zero commission.
We're going to
for
work
buyer
something out
versus
we're going to work something out. Seller's probably going to pay it, or hey, if it comes down to it and it's less, we're going to work it out with you, and we're not going to let you lose your dream house. I mean,
right.
That's how agents should be approaching this.
Right.
As a relationship, not as like a transaction. Like, I got to squeeze every dollar out of the deal.
Yeah.
So that one just bothered me. So
Oy. Oy.
I'll probably have a couple more. Let's see. This is a question I think everyone should know. This is a legit question for non-realtors.
For non-realtors, okay.
Right, but then they ask right about it. Is the buyer's agency agreement a national requirement now, or just required for all NAR members? I haven't seen anything come out of our state real estate commission office stating this new change or requirement. It is a NAR member requirement,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Now, there may be states where they have done other things with it, like beyond that. I don't know. Texas, I don't believe has.
Yeah.
So, but by and large, nationwide, it's NAR. It's not if you're not part of the National Association of Realtors, technically you don't have to do this,
Right.
unless your state has implemented something separate.
Yeah.
And if that person says they have not had that and they're not in NAR, it doesn't actually apply to them. But if you're in NAR, every realtor.
I see. Non-realtors. That's not. He's not asking consumers. He's asking.
Not. Right. He's right.
Got it.
I've got two more.
That one's actually not a stupid question. It's just
it's unusual.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a niche thing. Like
Yeah.
A small chance of that affecting very many people.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess there are some real estate salespeople that are not part of NAR. There are also now that's a whole separate topic. I'm not sure if it's what we're talking about. For the MLS rules with commission only apply to MLSs that NAR owns.
Yes.
So there are some that do not apply. We
Right.
could still advertise buyer's agent commission on the non-NAR MLS. Ours is definitely
Yeah. If you want to do a disservice to your buyer, seller. Just kidding.
right by divulging this information.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. It's like saying that I don't know. I can think of a lot of analogies, but basically, it's just like it's taking away a marketing tool.
Well, and actually, I think that maybe perhaps where the perspective is coming from is that in a negotiation process, I don't necessarily want to show you all of my cards,
Sure.
per se.
Yeah.
But there is information that we need to be be in order to help the transaction.
It's just logical that if you want to reach the most buyers, and I don't know what the numbers are going to do. I know for resale homes, I saw this somewhere. It's between 80 and 90% of people use an agent for a resale home.
Yeah.
And this is nationwide. It will change a little, right? It's going to
Right.
change. Some people are not going to want to sign something, or they're going to be uncomfortable. The number is going to drop, but I don't think it's going to drop precipitously. I think it's going to be, you might go to 70% or something like that or 65%, whatever. That's still 65% of buyers, even if it's that low, that you're cutting out of the market by not divulging this and risking losing buyers,
Right.
just over some weird negotiating practice that you think you need to do for yourself and for your seller. It's a strange idea, I think.
Yeah.
To not divulge something they've already agreed to on paper. This one was interesting to me. I'm just going to read it, and you can put it up on the screen later, I guess. It occurred to me that unscrupulous agents may use this new rule to benefit themselves. I'm about listing agents. If their listing agreement is 6% and the seller agrees to pay the listing agent 3% and the buyer's agent 3%, which is kind of a normal thing, the listing agent can simply tell the buyer's agent seller's paying 2% and keep 4% for themselves. Hold on. To prevent this issue and to ensure a transparent transaction, should there be a document signed by the seller shared with the buyer's agent stating the seller's understanding of how the payment listing and broker will be split? Yes, of course. But also, you can't really get away with that. There's a listing agreement that shows the breakdown.
Right.
Before you get to this other document.
Yeah.
So what that shows me is someone who's not listed a house yet.
Yeah.
Or didn't look at the paperwork or think about it. I don't know. But ours are very clear. And if it says that they're paying 6 and they're paying 3 out, it's already spelled out in the listing agreement.
Yeah.
If you violate that, your seller's going to see it on the closing statement.
Right. This almost feels like parody. Shouldn't there be a document?
And this has 139 comments, so a lot of discussion on that, right?
Whew.
Yeah, and so obviously that's kind of a silly question, right?
Yeah.
We'll call it silly, to be nice.
It's kind of stupid. This is going to be a 4-minute video. I'm cutting all of this out.
That's fine. 4 minutes, okay. Just one question answered, and that's it.
Yep.
Why are individuals willing? Okay, this is it. Why are individuals willing to do their sellers a disservice by locking them into a percentage? Wouldn't your client prefer to choose the best offer? And why would you, as a real estate agent, want to advertise said foolhardy lock? That's what it says. Said foolhardy, instead of allowing them to negotiate. All these caps. You can see a bunch of caps. The question is not about not offering concessions. The question is why we keep that open for the sellers. Why not keep that open for the sellers so they choose the best offer? The best offer may be 3 and not 2.5 due to no contingency on inspections. So they're basically saying you're locking your seller into this percentage, and why would you possibly do that? Well, you've already had that discussion, and like, if you want to do it that way and leave it open, leave it open.
Yeah.
If you feel comfortable as a listing agent taking that under those circumstances where you don't know what they're going to pay, be my guest. I don't want to do that. I have no interest like in that. I've been doing this a long time. I don't want to do that. I would rather know, like, if you're the seller, I'd rather know what are we going to do. You know, I'll give you my advice on it, and it's going to be pay this much, right? And if you say I absolutely won't pay that much, then I will say thank you very much, and we will part ways. That is the truth. If it's a no, if it's in between, I guess we'd have to talk.
Yeah.
It depends on how special the house is. Maybe it would make sense to do it, but by and large, if you're going to cut the commission down to nothing or very low, you are hurting yourself,
Yeah.
Mr. Seller, and you're hurting me, and I don't want to waste time on it. So anyway, this guy has a very different attitude on things like, why are you locking them in? And let them look at the offers and stuff. Well, how are you going to get the offers?
Yeah.
That's the point. Like, and again, I'm talking about my market.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a seller's market, this could work.
Yeah.
Right? If you have 1 or 2 houses to choose from that are in the area, that might work. And they're going to bring you some offer, maybe.
Yeah.
In our current market here, that will not work.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our agents today is showing homes right now, and 7 out of 7 of them are paying normal commission.
Yeah.
Old, 3%, I'll just say it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a Sherman antitrust violation. We can tell you what they're paying, because they're all paying literally 3%.
Yeah.
And so I expect it's going to be that way for a while here in a buyer's market.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a strong buyer's market, but it's definitely a buyer's market.
For sure.
It's not balanced. It's definitely in favor of the buyers.
Right.
So, anyway, those are the main ones I had.
Well, I guess that I'm hearing, like you say, I'm hearing individuals that just don't know information. They just don't know answers to some simple questions that,
and so the best place to get that is where?
Well,
Facebook, of course.
Let me go to instead of sending a message or a text or an email to your broker or your manager. As a big company, maybe you've got a supervising
training someone.
Yeah, training manager, whatever.
Somebody.
You're asking social.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah, just crowdsource it.
Mm-hmm.
Get the right answer eventually.
Wow,
that happens a lot. And these are not even the worst ones.
Yeah,
but these are ones I found in kind of short notice. A couple of days. Just wanted to give you an example.
Yeah,
or a sample, I should say.
Yeah,
of the stuff I see. And some of the discussions, people get angry too. They get angry because they're convinced they're right, and like, well, that has nothing to do with anything. Where did you get that idea from? And there's a lot of misinformation, not just in the public, but among realtors as well.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Well, hopefully this is helpful to dispel some of the shoddy information and absurd conclusions that some people, and again, I feel like, this is a testament as much to just the nature of information that's available to realtors, and I would blame the broker. I blame the parents.
Well, yeah, because you should be training. There should be training for everyone, because this has been going on for 4 months. That's the other point to make. This is something we've known about for 4 months.
Yeah.
4, give or take, months, maybe more, but it's around 4 months. And so it's not like it just got sprung on us today or this week. I would have said 20-something of August. We'd known since March this is coming. So had a lot of time to prepare. We had multiple meetings. We've done videos. We've done training try to get everybody up to speed so they're ready.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not happening everywhere.
Yeah. Well.
And I will say, some of this, in fairness, some of this differs by market. I get that.
Yeah, fair enough.
But by and large, putting it in a national group, which all these are national groups, makes you look a little foolish.
Yeah. Well, I guess the most important question that we would need to ask you, Mr. Crouch, is, are there stupid questions?
I think I've just proven there are stupid questions, yes.
Oh.
Sorry.
Wah, wah.
I know. Yeah, there are some, there are questions that demonstrate ignorance.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
Like, ignorance of the process or ignorance of the way things actually work.
Yeah.
So when I call it stupid, it's just like it's out of ignorance.
Well,
so
and I suppose
there are ignorant questions.
Yeah. And I suppose just as a capper, if someone has it's a stupid question. Someone has a stupid question and they don't want to either look stupid on Facebook or make sure they're getting a good answer, how can they get in contact with you?
Oh, you just call me, call or text me. I'll answer your stupid question. Honestly, I mean, I would.
I actually
answered a few hundred of them.
I actually will say that the only thing worse than having a stupid question is actually not asking the stupid question.
That's actually true. And I've told my agents, we've done a lot of training, dozens of agents, and some of our agents have gone on, they have their own brokerages now. I've done this for 27 years. And so what I tell agents is, I'd rather have you ask the same question more than once than mess something up.
Yep.
I'd rather have, even if it feels kind of dumb or like rudimentary, or just ask, because I'd rather protect you from making some bad mistake than it doesn't bother me to answer the question 5 times.
Right.
And at some point, I kind of want you to, like, hey, we talked about this, remember, like, yesterday.
Yeah.
But if it comes up periodically and you don't remember that, hey, that's part of it, and we're all learning. So,
Yeah.
and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Even after this much time. So, deals present things, you're like, wow, I hadn't seen that before. With a survey or with a septic system that happened recently, that kind of thing. So, you're always learning. But no question, it's worth asking. And
Yeah.
certainly, I'll put my number on the screen, all that, and they can call, text me, whatever. If I don't know, I'll just tell you who to talk to.
Yeah.
But I'll try to answer it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
Well, thank you, sir.
All right. Good job.
Ooh.